Hi everyone, I'm Brenda Harvey, author of the Conspiracy series. Welcome back to my channel. I was scrolling through my channel just like a few days ago and I realized I haven't really talked about writing or like books in a while. So that's what we're doing today, and if I seem a lot lower energy than normal, I'm currently working a zoo summer camp. I spent 7 hours with children and I'm exhausted. So we're going to try to keep this high energy, but just know I am exhausted. So anyway, let's get into the video. So, in case you didn't read the title or the thumbnail, this video is about researching for your book. Now, I do want to make something very clear. You do not necessarily need to research for your book. There is a good chance that your book is just fine without you doing any extra research on it. However, there are a lot of things that would require you to research. For example, with my books here, so this is a conspiracy. The first one, graduation editions, are coming out next month for the conspiracy, which is super exciting. So stay tuned for that. We have some amazing surprises coming along with that release. But for my book, there is a lot of forensics in it, and I have made jokes about that a few times, but there's a lot of forensics, and what goes into that, I've never taken a forensics course. I am still in high school, in case you were wondering. I said that multiple times, but I'm still in high school, so the only forensics course I will take in my high school years is one that I'm taking my last semester of my senior year, which is what I'm going into now. However, I've done so much research into forensics. I've read case files, I've read proceedings, I read an online textbook for forensics procedure. It was interesting, but also very boring at the exact same time. I've done a digital autopsy. That is the amount of research that I put into these books. And if you are wondering, why would you put in that much research? Well, when you are researching, you really need to keep in mind your audience. So if you're writing fantasy, this is my fantasy section right here. If you're writing fantasy, you get to BS the entire thing. Like, gravity doesn't even need to exist how it normally does in a fantasy world. Now, if you're writing something more like sci-fi, which is like right here, and then I have like this entire circle section, like right here, and then I also have a few sci-fi books up there. But if you're looking at sci-fi, you do need to look kind of like at your current political climate and just like the climate in general. And if you're saying this in the future, then you're going to need to be able to look back on now and what is going to be the driving force. And you're also going to need to look at a lot of history. I do not have my English textbook, thank the Lord. But I do have a history textbook somewhere. I'm not getting it out, but I have it. You're going to want to look at history and how it consistently repeats itself and how you can predictably make it resurface in a later book. Now, obviously with sci-fi, where is my sci-fi section? Now, obviously with sci-fi, there are not as, it's very similar to fantasy where there are just not a lot of rules, but there is a lot more research that you're going to have to do. Now, we are not talking about sci-fi or fantasy because that is not my expertise. Actually, I have written one sci-fi book. This is actually a sci-fi book, the one that's been sticky noted for months. That's a sci-fi book. And I'm also writing another one that is also sci-fi, and we can talk about that at some other point. But right now we're going to be talking about what I call real-world fiction, and that's like this entire section. You can't really see it on my bookshelf, but it's like the majority of up here. I know I've done videos where you can see it up here, so go check those out. This is what I call real-world fiction. So that can be just like, it takes place in our world. So with real-world fantasy, now, one thing I want to make clear, real-world fiction, I think I've been calling it fantasy, but it's real-world fiction. It needs to follow normal rules, but it is not realistic fiction. Like, let's see. This book is an entire conspiracy theory. This one is about a mouse. But it takes place in our world. Now, I do organize my bookshelves differently than a lot of people do, but this is just what makes sense to me. So, for our world fiction, you do need to follow some certain rules, and I'm going to tell you how to research that. Has it already been 5 minutes of me blabbering? Yes, but we're going to get into research now. So, first things first, if you want to write about a current political climate, then dang it, you better be educated in what that means. I don't care if you are left, I don't care if you are right, I don't care if you are in the middle, I don't care if you're extreme. You need to understand both sides if you're going to write from that perspective. Now, you can 100% be totally on one side of the political spectrum and you're writing to convince people to be on that end of the political spectrum, but you still need to understand the other side, and otherwise it's just going to be complete and utter BS that nobody except your side wants to read, and you're not going to make any difference. You need something that is going to impact, like 1984. It's a classic sci-fi for a reason. Why is there so much dust on these books? But this is a book where you need to understand the political climate. Oh my gosh, it has... Oh my gosh. That's a Golden Girls bookmark in it. I haven't read this book in so long. I need to restart it. So you just need to understand the political climate of right now if you're going to be writing in that. Now, for me, I was writing more like fiction that involves a lot of forensics. So science, what you're going to want to look at, science journals. Like I said, textbooks, forensics textbooks. Do some digital free labs. I did a digital autopsy. It was amazing and really disturbing. Read old, publicly released case files. Look through news about what's going on. These are all things that you're going to want to do as you're researching. Now, are my books 100% accurate? No, you have the FBI involved in a federal lab in northern Michigan. That's complete and utter BS. I'm not going to deny that. But that's how it is in these books. So yes, you can change some things, but if you want these to be accurate, I know so much about human anatomy, and I know so much about how to kill someone that it's kind of scary, actually. I will literally have my friends be like, hey, so someone died in this book. Can you, is this accurate? I'll be like, well, actually, I just read a book and I was like, okay, yeah, it says that they would have burned to death, but in real life, they would have suffocated on the carbon monoxide before getting burned. That kind of thing. These are all things that I know that just the average person walking down the street would not know. And how I know this is specific good sources, and I know you don't want to do research like you do in school, but this is how you're going to have to do it. If you want to make something that's complete and utter BS, go for it. I'll read it. Send me a copy or email me, I'll buy it. I will do it. You just need to tell me what it is, and I will happily read it. But if you want something like my books that take place in the real world and is very science heavy, forensics heavy, and is accurate, you need to keep that in mind. Now, there are mentions in these books of how inaccurate it is and trying to fix the inaccuracies. Like in The Killers, there's a moment where it's like, oh, why is the FBI here? This is not a federal case. This is not crossing state lines. And then there's oh, FBI's here, but these body part implants have been shipped from all over the country, and that's what makes it federal. Is that 100% how things work? No. But are you entertained by it? Yes. Am I making money off of it? Yes. And before you say, oh, you don't care about the writing, you only care about making money, I'm a published author. I'm not going to publish something that first of all, I'm not going to publish something that I don't think is interesting, that I think is complete and utter BS and that is boring, and you will never get a sequel to the conspiracy series from Iris's perspective. Because I know that happens and then it's awful. So that is never going to happen. It's like the sequels to Star Wars. It's never going to happen. From me. If you want a fanfic about it, send it to me. I want to read that. If you are writing fanfic about my books, please send it to me. That's so entertaining. Okay? It would warm my little heart that you liked my stuff so much that you want to write about it. So, like I was saying, if you're looking at stuff, you need to find these sources that make sense. Now, obviously, if you're writing about tree growth and that's an important part, you're not going to be looking at forensics journals. If you are writing about political science, forensic journals are not going to be your best friend. What is going to be your best friend is the news. If you are writing consistently about forensics, the news is not actually going to be your best friend. Have you seen how little they put out? There was a girl who died in my city like a few months ago, and the amount of information that was released to the public was obnoxious to me because I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, what did they find in the autopsy? They never told us. And I don't want to know. But the news is not your best friend if you're writing about forensics. Now, it can be helpful if you are looking at proceedings and you want to be like, okay, how does the police handle this? That's helpful. But if you want to be like, ooh, how's the science going here? That's not good. News isn't going to be your best friend. What's going to be your best friend is free forensics textbooks, forensics journals, science journals, case studies. All of those. And if you want to go and do a digital autopsy, do it. That was one of the most fun things I ever did in quarantine, was a digital autopsy. And it was free. It was great. So, I guess how I really want to leave you is, even though you don't want to research like you're researching for school, and I'm going to be honest with you, my target demographic is like teen authors or like early 20s, but even if you're like 30, 40, 50 watching this, I know you don't want to research like you're in school, but this is how you have to do it. And I know you've been told time and time again, like, how to do this at school, and maybe you've forgotten if you are in that older age bracket. I'm not calling you old, I'm calling you older than the teenagers I'm normally talking to. Now, you're going to need to do that, and especially if you're a teenager, it's like, oh my gosh, you're making me do all these sources, and you're making me cite. I'm not making you cite anything, first of all. Second of all, I just need you to understand that the skull is made of multiple parts. I need you to understand that this is the mandible, okay? And when I say spiderweb fracture, I know what I'm talking about. If you don't understand something that's in my books, Google it, and I can almost guarantee it's going to come up and it's going to make sense. GSR. Do you know what that means? I do. GSW. You probably know what that one means. But if you don't, look it up. Do you know what a spiderweb fracture is? Look it up. I do. Because I've done all of this research and I've set myself up for success. And honestly, when you take a school out of it and requirements out of it, learning's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to be able to just sit down and do some research on something. So, again, I'm babbling. Here's what I'm landing you on. Research like you're in school and it's for a grade. You'll need multiple sources. Make sure if you're writing real-world fiction, it makes sense that it's in the real world and not in a fantasy world that you invented. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, I hope you did. But please leave a like. That just tells the YouTube algorithm, like, hey, this is something that you should keep pushing out to people, and I want to grow a writing community. And we have 50 internet besties. We have 50 writers all here, and that is amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this adventure, and I'm so glad you're here. That's it. And then again, subscribe. That is A, going to tell me how many more people are joining the family, and B, it's again going to tell the YouTube algorithm, hey, we want more internet besties, push out more content. And then third, leave any comments, questions, concerns you have for me in the comments. And not only does that allow me to engage with you, it also tells the YouTube algorithm, like, hey, again, push out this content. My email address is listed in the description below. If you want to shoot me a longer email, I read them. I'm happy to. If I don't respond to you, it's because I do not have the words to respond to you. But you may get a video of me responding to you because I don't know how to use words. That's it. Anyway, thank you so much for supporting me. The graduation edition of The Conspiracy is going to be out next month, which is August, and I'm super excited for you guys to be able to read it. I have some super fun surprises coming for you guys that involves that. And I will see you guys next week with another video at 4. Bye.